Welcome to marketing. In this discussion, we will discuss the definition of marketing, the four different philosophies that guide marketing, and key marketing terms like customer loyalty, customer satisfaction, and customer value. So we begin with the definition of marketing. So this definition comes from American Marketing Association. So you can read the definition, and it is very officially looking definition. So if you can simplify this, so the definition says that marketing is basically about creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. So in other words, it's about creating value through your products and services. So you create value through your products and services to your customers, to your clients. Clients could be your suppliers, it could be your employees, it can be your partners, means shareholders and other stakeholders, and the society at large. So marketing is about creating customer value in profitable ways, in a socially responsible way. So if a firm succeeds in doing this, then you can say that marketing function has been effectively performed in that organization. So you can say that creating customer value is the core concept of marketing, or the core belief of marketing. So without value, without customer value, marketing cannot function. You can sell a product without creating customer value. For example, you can sell a product under monopoly situation. Like for example, a movie theater might price its popcorn at $10 or $15. So it's a monopoly situation. The customer is trapped in the movie theater for a couple hours, and either he or she buys the popcorn or goes without the popcorn. So here the customer can buy the product without feeling any value and without feeling happy or satisfied. So in monopoly situations, you can sell the product without creating customer value. So here selling happens, but marketing does not happen. Marketing happens only when the customer is happy, satisfied, and feels that he or she got his or her money's worth from the product or service. And on the other hand, not only the customer should be happy, but also the shareholders who invest their money in the firm should see returns, profitable margins. They should get their money's worth from their investment. So in other words, the company should satisfy the customer in profitable ways. So if a manager succeeds in doing that, then he or she would be a very effective marketing manager. So there are four main philosophies which guide marketing management. So these are called as four orientations. One is the production orientation, where the company focuses on the internal capabilities of the firm. For example, a company's internal capabilities could be that it has a good service culture. It has good production culture. Like for example, Toyota factory in Japan. It is considered to be the best automobile plant anywhere in the planet. Toyota's Tokyo automobile plant. So if a company focuses on its internal capabilities, it would think, what can we produce effectively? What can we produce efficiently? So this view, where a firm focuses on what it can do efficiently, dominated marketing for a longer time period. For example, Henry Ford, in the beginning of the 20th century, wanted to come up with a very efficient automobile that was cheaper, that served the purpose. Henry Ford wanted to replace horse-drawn carriages with a cheaper automobile. So he concentrated on production. How can we make a cheaper car that's affordable to the population? But what a firm can do effectively might not always be what the market wants. Like, for example, McDonald's. They can effectively sell hamburgers. They can make cheap hamburgers. But if the people want healthy food, right? If the people want healthy food, then hamburger might not always be the best option. So they might want salads. They might want smoothies. So what you can do to your best might not always be equal to what the market wants. So that was the problem with Henry Ford. He wanted to make cars cheaper. But people, after a certain point of time, they already had their Model T. If they want a second car, then they wanted variety in their car. So then General Motors entered the market in 1920s with its Pontiac, Buick, Chevy, and then it acquired market leadership in no time. So production orientation might not be the best way to do business in an industry, and it might not create customer value. Sales orientation. So this belief dominated marketing field in 1950s, 1960s, where after Second World War, our production capability went up and companies hired a lot of salespeople, and they believed that using aggressive sales techniques would result in high profits. So the automobile industry was built on the model. So there was a time when aggressive selling techniques were used and people were sold automobiles using pressure tactics. But again, this creates high customer resentment. Nobody likes to be pushed into buying a product that they don't need. So the business moved on into market orientation, where they started believing that satisfying customer wants and needs while meeting organizational objectives is the key to success. So here the firm wants to know customer needs, and it tries to satisfy the needs in profitable ways. So this might mean that at times, if you find that your product is not the best fit for a customer's needs, you better lose that customer. Then give the customer a product that doesn't fit his or her need. For example, if you find that a customer doesn't have enough credit history, then you don't try to sell a loan mortgage to a customer. Rather, you would say the customer, like, your credit score means it doesn't fit our customer profile, so we would not be able to sell you the product. So market orientation means salespeople. So this means a different type of reward system for the company's salespeople. So a company that follows sales orientation would reward salespeople for how many units they sold. Did they attain their target? But a company that follows market orientation would reward their salespeople for customer satisfaction scores. So now if you call, let us say you call a cell phone company, or you call a cable TV company, once you complete the call, then you would get a customer satisfaction survey in mail. And if you fill the survey and if you give high ratings to the salesperson, then the company would reward the salesperson. So here salespeople are rewarded for how effectively and how efficiently they satisfied the needs of the customer. So this means a different kind of thinking than simply following sales orientation. And the fourth orientation that is currently dominating marketing field is the belief that our products should not only be helpful to the customer, but they should also be good for the individual and the society. So which means products that do not pollute the environment, and creating products that encourage responsible behavior from the customer. So even today, production orientation is followed by some companies. For example, we have Ryanair, a cheaper airlines in Europe. So Ryanair is about providing the lowest fare to their customers. So they do everything that is possible to reduce the cost. Like in some planes, they even remove the bathroom so that additional seats can be added. The seats do not recline. They absolutely don't give any refunds. And they only fly from airports that are far away from the city. So by doing so many tricks like this, they are able to reduce their fare. And customers are able to fly from, like let's say London to Madrid for like 50 British pounds. So that is production orientation. You can say Walmart follows production orientation. It uses a global supply chain. It manufactures its products in countries where the cost of production is the cheapest, uses container transportation, and brings the products to United States, Canada, all over the world, and it uses the most efficient supply chain in the business world. On the other hand, sales orientation, it is becoming less and less popular. Like even automobile companies are moving on from sales orientation. Like for example, used cars. You needed high pressure sales tactics to sell used cars, but with the emergence of online retailers like CarMax.com, people are buying automobiles and used cars without negotiation over the internet, which is good for customers. Our single price is good for customers. Negotiation, it means whoever is the strongest wins. And often it's not the customer, because the salesperson meets a lot of customers in a given day. But whereas we don't negotiate that much on our day-to-day life. A vast majority of modern corporations follow market orientation, where they try to keep the customer happy and satisfied, and many companies are moving from market orientation into societal marketing orientation. So in societal marketing orientation, we believe that a firm should satisfy customer wants, and it not only increase the individual's well-being, but also the society's long-term well-being. So some products which people buy might not be in their best interest or in the best interest of the society. Like we have always had controversial products like tobacco, cigarettes. So cigarettes, we know they are bad. They cause cancer. And at the same time, a total ban on cigarettes is also not possible. It would only encourage black marketing. People would start to grow their own tobacco, right? So banning hasn't worked in case of many products. We tried prohibition back in 1933. It did not work. So societal marketing orientation then is about how to minimize the damage. Like we have products like casinos, gambling, controversial products which cause damages to the society. So how do you manage that? How do you limit the damage that you cause by marketing such products? So societal marketing orientation works with non-profit organizations and government. So firms that market these products work with non-profit organizations and government, and government regulates them so that the society's damage is minimized. So let us move on to some key definitions. So customer value. So the definition of customer value is, if a customer perceives that the benefits from a product outweigh the cost, then customer value is created. For example, let us say that you buy a smartphone for $1,000. And if you believe that the benefits you got from the product are more than $1,000, then that is customer value. The customer feels that the product totally deserves the money you spent on acquiring the product. Then customer value is created. So how is customer value created? So by offering products that perform, earning the trust of customers, avoid unrealistic pricing, be truthful in your advertisements, have good service and after-sales support, and co-create products along with your customers. So the customer benefits and cost of customer perceived value can be follows. There is a benefit that comes from the product by using the product, and there are benefits that come through the services associated with the product. So a product often contains two components. One is the tangible component and another one is the intangible component. For example, let us say that we go to a restaurant to have a meal. So the actual meal, the goods, the food product, that is the product. So we eat the product, it is tasty, so we are happy and satisfied. That is the product benefit. The services benefit can be the location of the restaurant, the interior decoration, the employee service, and the atmosphere. They all are intangible factors. So that is a secondary benefit that you acquire from the product. A personal benefit is the benefit that is provided through the competence and service of the employees. Like you go to a quality doctor and the doctor helps to fix a medical issue you have through his or her competence. So that is a personal benefit. And the image benefit arises due to the image of the product. Like having a Rolls Royce, that's an image benefit. Using certain brands are considered to be very good for customer image. So those are the benefits that happen to a customer because of buying the product. And at the same time, the costs involve monetary cost, the amount of money you pay to buy the product, how much time you spend to acquire the product. For example, let us say that you are taking a vacation to Disneyland. It means not only the time spent, it means not only the money spent, but you also have to take a week off, for example. and fly. So that is the time cost and energy cost, how much effort you have to take, and the psychological toll the entire consumption effort has on you. So some certain type of consumptions, like for example, think about buying a house, that takes a huge toll, right? We have to spend a lot of effort thinking, planning, getting a loan, moving. So it takes a huge toll on a customer in terms of money, time, energy, and psychological costs. So after doing all this, if the customer thinks that the product is worth the money, then customer value is created. So another key concept is customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction is the feeling a person experiences when they believe that the product has met their expectation. For example, let us say that you buy a phone with the expectation that it would last 2 years, and the product lasts 2 years. So then you are satisfied. But if you think that a product would last 2 years and after 1 year the phone experience, you get quality issues with the phone, the camera is not working properly, then customer satisfaction is not created, customer dissatisfaction happens. So every business tries to improve customer satisfaction. And customer satisfaction scores have been relatively stable for major companies in the past few years, because every company fights very, very hard to keep its customers more happy and satisfied. And if a customer is dissatisfied, like all the surveys that you take after you have a service experience with a firm, they are used by companies to evaluate their performance. So a company's performance and satisfaction index is very critical in terms of improving customer loyalty and satisfaction. So without satisfaction, you cannot generate customer loyalty. So going beyond satisfaction, companies try to build relationships with their customers. They want you to come back again. It's not a one-off transaction. If you go to a restaurant, they want you to come there regularly. If you go to a grocery store, they want you to visit them regularly. So relationship marketing is being given more priority and importance. So one way to do that is to give their customers a frequent purchase card. Like you shop at Piggly Wiggly, you shop at Kroger, Pick and Save. They give you a membership card and they give you discounts, rebates, deals, so that you come and shop there regularly. But that only builds financial loyalty. So you have to build deep emotional loyalty with your customers. So to build a successful relationship with your customers, companies are using customer-oriented employees, training their employees well so that they provide good customer service, effective training programs to employees, and giving authority to frontline employees so that they can take a quick decision to help the customers, and by encouraging effective teamwork. So market-oriented organization targets specific group of people. They don't target the general population. Like they define their target market very precisely in terms of demographic factors, age, gender, location, lifestyle, income. So based on these factors, you come up with a precise market segment and you target market them with your product. What type of automobile appeals to youngsters? What type of automobile appeals to seniors? What type of automobiles appeal to working professionals of middle age? So you need specific market segmentation techniques to sell your products to your customers. So in this regard, I posted an article titled Why Satisfied Customers Defect. So this article talks about it is not enough that you simply satisfy your customers. They should be completely satisfied. So generally companies use a 5-point scale to measure customer satisfaction. So a customer who is simply satisfied, okay, you expected a phone to last for 2 years, it lasted 2 years. Okay, you are satisfied. But if every single phone in the market lasts for 2 years, then the company is just meeting the industry standards. So that is not a reason for a customer to be loyal to the company. But if you expected a phone to last for 2 years and the phone lasts for 5 years, then you become completely satisfied. So if you are simply satisfied, you would not be loyal to the company. You would go to another company that makes you completely satisfied. So the difference between both can swallow a business. So this article argues that complete customer satisfaction is the key to securing customer loyalty. So it basically says that you have to delight your customers. Like for example, Starbucks. People who go to Starbucks are one of the most satisfied, completely satisfied people. That's one business which continues to generate high levels of customer satisfaction scores. Even in markets that have relatively little competition, like monopoly markets, the company still has to fight to provide outstanding value to the customers. Because once the competitive landscape changes, then the customers would migrate en masse to a competitor. So this article argues that there are two types of loyalty: long-term loyalty, true long-term loyalty, and false loyalty. So people who are falsely loyal to a company would be buying from the company, but they would be unhappy. They could be buying the product because of monopoly situation. But on the other hand, if you have true loyalty, then you not only buy from the company regularly, but you are very happy, satisfied, and feel emotionally connected to the business. So this article argues that customers will remain rock solid customers if they are completely satisfied. But again, it is not that easy to create complete customer satisfaction. You have to spend a lot of money studying customers, studying what they want, and provide efficient products that have high quality and at very low prices. So people would expect all this. But in spite of this, some businesses, like for example, take the case of Starbucks, Apple, those are some businesses that continue to generate not only high customer satisfaction scores, but are also very profitable. So this article argues that only by creating complete customer satisfaction, you can create true loyalty among customers. Satisfied customers can switch brands, but completely satisfied customers don't switch brands. They are very loyal. So this article studies 5 industries and finds out that this is true in all industries, like personal computers, airlines, telephone, hospitals, automobiles. In every industry, irrespective of whether it is competitive or not, high satisfaction always results in high levels of loyalty. So it argues that the company should listen to customers through the customer satisfaction index scores, by getting customer feedback, by doing marketing research, by talking to the frontline personnel who interact with the customers on a day-to-day basis, and strategic marketing activity. So customer loyalty is defined as something which has 3 components to it. the customer intends to repurchase. And the customer buys from the company frequently in more amounts, spends more money, more share of wallet, and is a long-term customer to the firm. And the customer has secondary behavior that is positive towards the organization by providing word of mouth. So the article categorizes customers into 4 types: loyalists, defectors, mercenaries, and hostages. So a loyalist or an apostle has a high customer satisfaction score and is very, very loyal to the firm. So they would be staying and supportive of the organization. A defector or a terrorist is not satisfied, unhappy, is disloyal, and has already left the firm. A mercenary is somebody who is highly satisfied but is not loyal. So they have very low commitment towards the organization. A hostage is somebody who feels very dissatisfied but is loyal because they are unable to switch or they feel trapped to the organization. For example, if you get into a cell phone contract for 2 years, then even if you don't like the firm, you cannot leave because you have to pay a contract fee to leave. So you feel trapped, you are unhappy, and you still are loyal because of the switching costs. So this article argues that company has to measure customer satisfaction scores, analyze the scores, and follow different strategies to provide customer satisfaction. For example, to dissatisfied customers, provide basic product or basic elements expected from any industry. So do the industry standards. Don't try to make dissatisfied customers feel more happy. And people who are neutral, they are happy with the product. So again, keep them like within the firm. Don't let them switch. And again, don't let neutral customers become dissatisfied. And the satisfied customers, the company should maintain them. The company should listen and interpret as to what they are saying. And they should try to move these satisfied customers into completely satisfied customers. So that was the basic arguments that was made in this article. So with this, we will conclude the discussion for this week.